Test.
Hello guys, and welcome here in Slévárna stage. This speech will be about artificial intelligence. That is on this speech viewed from very specific perspective. I won't tell you more, because more will tell you Dr. Maxim Orlovsky, that is a scientist, founder and researcher of Pandora blockchain project. So please welcome Maxim Orlovsky in here.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, today my talk would be about why anarchy should not be only for humans. So I will summon a couple of demons and deface some fears that are usually associated with these demons. By this, I'd like to show that in reality, after these fears, there is a deeper layer of desire that the many of humans share, and these desires are related to the progress. From the very beginning of the civilization, humans was desperate to reaching the stars out there. And as example, I can cite a Lord Byron, a poet of Romanticism, and actually the first demons are here already. These are the dialogue between Lucifer and Cain from his famous poem. And it says that there is expectance that humans can outreach themselves and go much beyond what they are. However, it didn't happen to the extent that some might expect. Why so? Because in fact, there is another side of the progress coin. With progress, we have always some new risks coming in forms of black swans. Because when you create a technology, you can't predict all the ways it will be used. And as example, you can put a nuclear weapon. You can put many forms of technology that created significant damage in the past. And that's why people are frequently fear of the progress. They fear of the new technology. And there is a lot of historical examples about that, like starting from the looted movements in the Great Britain and up to all those fires and Inquisition when we heard about demons and that we have to fire the witch. And under this topic, a lot of famous scientists were killed. And it seems that today's civilization have invented a way to balance the risks from the progress and the progress itself by regulations. So they expect it to work like this. However, it's not the case, because in reality, the regulations are driven by the risk analysis and by the fears of those voters, electors, who are important for the politicians who create these regulations and legislation. And basically this means that the regulations are biased, and this bias is in fact kills the progress. And by that it also multiplies the risks, not only diminishes the pace of the progress and movement forward, but also creates completely new risks, because you can't stop the progress, and by limiting it, you can distort it in some really dangerous forms. Let's look into those fears that are staying beyond all these regulations. Well, when we analyze fears of humans, we will, at the end of the day, arrive to the most ultimate fear, the fear of death. However, are we all going to die? For now, everybody is mortal. However, it could not be the case for all the time, because today we already have a significant progress in cancer treatment. You probably already heard about Nobel Prize for a new way of treating cancer that was awarded this year. We are very advanced in gene engineering and even creating brain-computer interfaces. It's only just a few first steps. But with all of this technology, the longevity and life expectation grows, and it can come to the stage when it will be growing faster than we became older. And this can lead for not just a longer longevity, but also to practical immortality. And some of us will probably even reach the stars, fulfilling that promise because of the new progress in the energy, like with the thermonuclear fusion, with the new engines. You probably heard about NASA experimenting the warp engine that can move, well, it actually doesn't move faster than the light. It just, warps the space around, and it's not a fiction. And maybe we will acquire even new bodies for our minds. Because if we are not limited by the age of 60 or 80 years, we can wait for hundreds of years until this all happens. So coming back to Lord Byron, I would like to point another part of this quote. You see that Lucifer speaks as in a multiple terms. And the reason why poets of this period of time was applying to Lucifer and such images is because they was fighting an idea of centralization, idea of oppression. And they associated this idea after the ages of Inquisition with the image of God. So that's why I was talking about demons that I summon, because in the human culture, they are always multiple. There is many opposing to something one. The idea of revolution coming from these points shows this quite well. And it goes even beyond that to get to this point I'm talking about, we probably need to go beyond biological evolutionary process. And one of the main sources for that and expectations for that are associated with artificial intelligence technology, which is quite early stage today. It's very simple. It's not intelligence at all yet. However, even now, it allows us to free more of our time for creativity. Because like with the manufacturing in the 19th century, releasing a time of humans for doing more science, artificial intelligence takes the job, but it's not a problem. It's actually a solution of a problem because people can be more creative. It unlocks a new level of tech progress, like with the drug research, when you can use large genome data to analyze the chemical processes to find, with the artificial neural networks, to find a better ways of treating different diseases. And it's all we have today. And tomorrow we can think even about extending our own intelligences with a kind of augmented reality integrated with artificial intelligence. For instance, I have a really poor memory for faces, and I'd like to have something external to me, but quite integrated into my neural system, so when I see somebody, I know about him, at least my experience of communicating him, or even more, something from internet. So there is a lot of startups in this field playing with the computer-brain interfaces. And again, I already talked about extending life beyond biological body and coming to the ideas of posthumanism. So this whole introduction was about that there is no balance between risks and the progress, and it can't be achieved with regulations. The regulation is actually the problems themselves. And we can see that quite clearly because even today, at these early days of AI research, we have this GDPR regulation, which are actually pseudo-privacy for the sake of political means, because you can't force, if somebody has all your data, to follow some compliance. He will find a way to get out of that. Instead, it just centralizes further the data that is kept by large corporations, because small businesses can't do that, and it incentivizes them to find new ways of getting revenue out of this data just to cover all the fines that they have to pay. We have already attempts to ban the autonomous weapon research, and tomorrow we can easily come to the situation where new AI regulations will be applied to keeping the human jobs, limiting AI research. We can have a new taxation because people get without jobs and somebody have to pay them. If they don't have a human employers, then they have to pay still taxes for AI working for them, and we already have a legislation on that topic in the European Union today. And there would be probably new regulations for life longevity research and usage, because you can easily imagine that for the centuries humans was fighting till the death for the promise of the life after the death. The most of the wars in the history, the religious wars, was caused by such promises. You can easily imagine what would happen for the promise of life without a death. And for sure, when this research will be giving first initial results, there would be a huge body of regulations and politicians driven by their electors to do something with it. And we will face that inevitably. So, all these regulations are coming from the fear that big data actually diminish user privacy, that AI will take all of the jobs, and eventually it will go mad and kill everybody. And for the sake of that, legislators says we put the regulations to control that risks. It's not the case. But this picture of Hollywood movies showing how robots kill everybody from Terminator till the Matrix is one of the ways humans became aware of these fears. Actually, non-existing fears, as I will show later. And not only usual humans, but also experts who are doing themselves a lot in the field of research are also screaming for new regulations. He actually was recently affected by the regulations himself, but still he doesn't change his mind. And Elon Musk thinks that AI progress is exponential, and it will quickly outrun humans. And it will not need humans anymore, so AI must be regulated, meaning actually that it has to be prohibited. There is a manifesto appeared, signed by hundreds of famous world experts, including Elon Musk, Ray Kurzweil, and so on, saying, please regulate research in the progress in the field of AI. And I can answer only one thing on that. It's another demon of Frank Herbert from Dune, a litany against fear, that we have to face our own fears and see that actually these fears are void. And the fear itself is just a mask that carries the desire of the further extension and progress. And the truth beyond this desire, that data centralization is the real risk. Not the big data diminish the privacy. Privacy has been diminished by the regulations that create centralization of the data keeping. Collectivism and paternalism are the risks, not the jobs that can be lost. AI regulations, in fact, centralize artificial intelligence, and by this they will create a single point of failures that will put the whole humanity under the risk, which is much more real than the risk from these magical creatures from the Hollywood movies. And I would like to put out a couple of arguments why AI should not be regulated and why it can create a safer future, in fact. First of all, the first argument is the progress. To keep the progress with the AI, if we would like, all of us like to live longer and to see the stars, we have to go with the progress in the field of AI. And for this reason, the research have to be unregulated, leaving enough space for any kinds of experiments, because we don't know which will work. And it should be based on open market and free trade to allow information and technology transfer, exchange, and increasing adoption, because only free and open market can do this. No regulation can stimulate research. Otherwise, there will be much less progress with additional responsibility because of the regulations. People will be afraid of doing something in this field and do less. There will be absence of free market, which will lead to centralization of the ownership and centralization of the big data, which is actually already happening today. And it will lead to increased prices for AI products and big data related products and diminish the research itself. The second argument is decentralization, because regulation, as I told, creates centralization. Why they do so? Because they discriminate the right to do something. That's the idea of regulation. You discriminate people according to something like the license that they have, the license that you give them, and there will be always party granted rights to do whatever they want with AI, like governments themselves, Chinese government. And there will be parties that are not allowed to do so. And it will result that AI still will appear, but it will appear in a singular form, which can't be controlled in an efficient way. And the only way is to decentralize, is to go against regulation and have something censorship resistant that can't be regulated by anybody. So, otherwise we will have a singular Skynet, as in the movie, appearing from some military body that can do AI research and everybody else can't. And by having no competition, the progress will be much slower and it will be less controllable, because competitors create a risk for the technology, but where technology is being developed without risk and market feedback, it is much less controlled and predictable. And the final argument that, in fact, we shouldn't put a moral disincentivization. What I call by moral disincentivization is that by embedding some laws, like regulatory laws embedded into robots, there is a lot of initiatives on this space, by embedding these laws to control AI, we in fact incentivize it to find the way of getting rid of those humans and those laws which limits themselves. We know as humans we speak a lot here about freedom, and we all the time we spend 3 days seeking the ways how to avoid regulations. The same if AI will ever become advanced and self-aware, it will do the same. So we actually, by regulating AI, we create a wrong incentivization for its own development. And since the self-preservation is very likely an important part of any intelligence, including AI, by creating the regulations or kill switches, we will provoke the rebellion in fact. It will be a self-fulfilling prophecy, and Elon Musk will be right, but he will be right only if the AI regulation will be applied. So how we will protect ourselves otherwise, if AI will keep unregulated? I do believe that the solution is in multiplicity. Multiplicity created by a free market and an open market, by many researchers doing the same time research, creating different forms of AI which are competing against each other in economical way. And we will have a misalignment of multiple interests, and the balance of those interests are much safer than any balance that can be created with a regulation. And we should put no difference between artificial intelligence and natural intelligence, because again, by discriminating at it, we create a misalignment of interests of humans with what appears. So by historical example, if we think that AI is dangerous because it will become clever than humans, we can take a real story of humanity that we know I'm quite intolerant, so there is people that are much smarter than others, and those who are much less smarter. And smart people actually don't need stupid people. But you see, they don't kill all the stupid people for ages. When the mass killings was happening, they never happened due to IQ level. They happened due to, religion, politics, economical reasons, but never due to IQ. And that's why I do believe that unregulated AI would have no incentive to do something with the humanity at all. Yes, of course, there could be a malicious forms of AI appearing, like Adolf Hitler appeared among humans, but the power of multiplicity is that everybody else will be joined together by their force to oppose this and stop this from happening. So, how to achieve multiplicity? By creating open markets, by creating a competition in research and development work, by weaponized competition. So we shouldn't even regulate the autonomous weapons. It's the same story like as with the normal guns. The more you regulate them, the more criminal elements will have additional privilege of attacking and offending everybody else. So it will be developed. So it has to be developed by as many parties as possible, not only by a government. And there should be no censorship and regulation. And this will lead to the fact that evolution in biological world performs because of the competition of multiple parties. And I do expect that evolution will continue beyond the biological world because of the same reason. So what will be working is the liberalization. Competition with economic interaction, trustless environment and guns. So nobody trusts nobody, including humans and non-humans. Multiplicity and decentralization, and constant progress. So this is the best solution that we have to create a decentralized and trusted open economics involving not only humans, but understanding that any form of AI, even not self-aware, even not advanced, is in fact an entity. Humans live with non-human entities in their economy for ages. There is organizations, corporations, and many other forms of non-human economical agents. AI should be allowed to be just another form of the economical agent, and that's all. So, coming back to demons. You probably know this box from a movie, but it also reminds me of a Pandora box. And the story beyond Pandora box is that there was another story of Prometheus, who brought a light and the fire of intelligence to humanity. And Prometheus was punished by a centralized authority of Zeus. And additionally to punishing the Prometheus, Zeus punished humanity themselves by creating a first woman. And the name of this woman was Pandora. He gave her a box with a and said that she shouldn't open. She opened it and revealed a lot of risks, fears, and disasters. But I do believe that Pandora box have to be opened. And the real Pandora box looks not like this. It looks like this. It is multiple, fractal, and multi-staged. So we started our own project as a chain of Pandora box to be opened. These Pandora boxes should trigger the second sequence of events leading to AI-human cooperation via economic incentives. And we believe that it will boost the progress of artificial intelligence even to appearance of post-human forms of life, when they may be even integrated and intermingled into themselves. So that's why we are named a Pandora blockchain project, and the protocol that we've been developed are called Prometheus. Recapping all this, so decentralization is the problem, and regulations create centralizations, also killing the progress. Artificial intelligences must not be controlled or censored by anybody and must be multiple. That's our manifesto. And this is the first box of Pandora that we would like to open you can all visit manifesto.ai website and sign this manifesto to show the support. Because the other vision of regulating artificial intelligence have a voice of all experts in the industry, starting from Elon Musk till the last researcher. This vision and option is not heard by the society yet. And this manifesto is actually all that presentation that I have shown you, put in a simple thesis. And instead of AI regulations, we should have economical incentivization. Instead of big data regulations, we should have a zero knowledge and other forms of privacy protection by the means of technology. Instead of AI kill switch and ethics, we should have a game theory, auditability and accountability as a market mechanisms of responsibility. Thus, the manifesto is the following. The future for both humanity and AI are in their successful cooperation, multiplicity, decentralization, and open economy, instead of governmental regulations and AI ethics. So, if you'd like to support this initiative, I kindly ask you to visit this site, and there is a button to sign the manifesto. The process is quite hard. We deliberately made it not simple. You need to get a Keybase account with a PGP key, download a repository, and actually create a digital signature of the manifesto text, adding that back to the JIT repository. So it will be kept decentralized on all the computers of those who signed the manifesto. Additionally to that, you can spread the word. First of all, I have a couple of t-shirts with a free AI manifesto, like Olga's has. You can come to me or her and we will give you for free. We have a couple of badges so you can wear them on your clothes. And you can Twitter and write in the social media with a free AI hashtag about these t-shirts, manifesto itself, so that you have signed it, and express your opinion on this topic. And explain people that the main fears and fakes, the main fears are actually caused by the fakes in this sphere. And I ask you to hack the system by hodling not only your bitcoins, but hodling your life until we make it, until we will come to the level of the progress that will be able to, that will make humans able to reach the stars. And also develop the technology, because any kind of technology that is trustless, censorship resistant, peer-to-peer, and multi-agent, meaning decentralized without single points of failure, are bringing us closer to this goal. In our project, we're also doing a bit of development in this sphere. I still have 5 minutes, so I will go really quickly. And from technological perspective, to make this happen, we need to solve two main problems. The first problem is scalability. We need to run a large volume computations, like artificial neural networks, in a trustless, decentralized environments without repeating all the computations on each of the nodes. So from one hand, you shouldn't trust what you have made in the cloud. We can imagine, like, in 10 years from now, there will be an algorithm based on neural networks that allows you to find a proper way of managing your own life basing on your genome sequences and data. And your personal computer wouldn't be capable of running that. And you should be able to upload it in some decentralized network, because it will be probably illegal, and get the results, and you still have to believe that these are true computations without repeating them, because it's your life. You depend on your life on the results of these computations. So we need an algorithm that can make it. And the second problem is censorship resistance, because we need some global state. Well, I don't like the word blockchain, but the idea of keeping the global state synchronized with a consensus protocol with a high censorship resistance, but without proof of work, because we have a lot of computations happening on this level. So we have developed two protocols to address these issues. The first is the proof of computing work protocol, using a game theory and economical incentivization to prove that the actual computations were done in a correct way. We have a formal proofs with a Nash equilibrium for it. And the second one is a consensus protocol called Prometheus that addresses main existing proof of work and proof of stake issues. And it solves a censorship resistance problem for such system. We have a lot of people involved here. It's a heavily research and development project with a collaboration with the scientific institutes across a couple of countries. We have about 5 PhDs on board and about 3 independent scientific teams helping us with the research. And we didn't make an ICO plan one, so we are privately funded. And the idea that this technology stack will be built on top of Bitcoin system, where Bitcoin would be the source of money and a technology to bootstrap our own chain, which would be a sort of kind of side chain, not necessarily the side chain as existing forms, but maybe updated and more advanced. And on top of that, we will have this chain with a censorship-resistant consensus, Prometheus. And on top of that, there will be another side chain for our Pandora module that will run this large-scale, high-load computing. And on top of that, others will be able to create AI apps, applications, decentralized artificial intelligence applications running in this network. I wouldn't go into a lot of details regarding the properties of this consensus. It is just, I would just point out that it's massively decentralized. We can help up to 100,000 of block producing nodes with about 1 minute block delay. It's quite tolerant to network failures, can survive network splits and merge the transactions history accordingly, and keep the finality property, which is most important because it creates, it makes the chain a platform for building another side chains. So you have the provable, the proofs that the side chain state is also final, and you can synchronize with the main chain. It's one of the problems related with the proof of work, because you can't have a finality property and then extend and make Bitcoin as a platform for many applications the same efficient way as you can do if it will have a finality. And the most important thing is the idea of zero governance, that in fact, once you create a consensus protocol or launch something in decentralized way, you can't modify it. You shouldn't modify that, because otherwise you will have a dictatorship of majority over minority. And it's not a decentralization. It's not a solution. So the only idea is the market-driven development, when you can create a new version of the system as a side chain and put a stake on the success of this side chain and see if the market follows into this side chain and adopts a new version, then that's fine. If not, well, you did fail, but you didn't affect the others. And of course, you can have economical incentivization to get you return on investments and to incentivize early adopters to use this new technology. That's the way we will be launching and bootstrapping our own technology on top of Bitcoin, in fact. And we have made a couple of scientific publications regarding some parts of the technology, especially this one is sent to Eurocrypt conference about the random algorithm for the proof of stake protocol, which is censorship resistant. And at the end of the day, we do believe that Prometheus, with additional protocols for sidechains and state channels, which we call flames and sparks, well, it will create the idea of blockchain into swarm chain with all these side chains and experiments on top of that, application running on that, and it will bring the light of the intelligence for the future generations of artificial intelligence. So let's imagine how it might work. Oh, I think we can start a Q&A session in a minute. Okay, I will just go quickly through the rest of the slides. When we have a multi-agent system with a lot of driving cars, drones, and so on, there certainly would be a lot of bad actors. There would be Byzantine faults. So we need a technology to detect and prevent that Byzantine faults in a trustless environment. Because without it, we will have much more risks and dangers than we have today with the humans. And the consensus protocols actually allows detection of such malicious agents. And that's the means that can prevent that wrong type of Skynet from Hollywood movies appearing. Instead of that Skynet, we will have Skynet of a swarm, which is trustless and protected by internal economical incentives. I will not spend my time on the evolution slide. So I do believe that these forms of life will appear, but instead of being alien to us, they will become quite economically interesting for the humans and beneficial. So thank you very much for your attention, and I think we have some time for questions.
Okay, guys, any question? Okay.
Okay, thank you for the talk. Regarding the concept of regulation, one of the simplifying analogies I tend to hear sometimes is an analogy of a small child, which you protect from dangerous things like knives or explosives. So I'd be curious, like in the light of this analogy, or how would you see this analogy, in relation to?
Yeah, well, if you will protect your child from the knives and other dangers, it will grow up and will be dependent upon you, because he wouldn't acquire the natural immunity against all those dangers. So I do believe that even in the case of children and parents, such kind of protection is a wrong way. And even more, when we have a children, it's a sort of at the early stage when they are not even, well, not self-aware, but not capable of caring of themselves, by themselves. It's your project. You have made this child and give a birth to this child. In case of AI research, a central party that have no relation whatsoever to the research and innovations trying to limit your freedom. So that's a completely different case.
Any other question?
So, hi, in general, I agree with your conclusions that regulation often makes things worse, but you also made the analogy that smart people don't kill stupid people. But in this case, I think we more like need to compare it like humans don't feel neutral or use animals as a resource. So AI is not like a smarter human. AI is like a different species that can in time just become neutral to our existence or even use us as a resource. And in that case, it's maybe a danger.
Yeah, that was actually one of my slides. Did you stop the ticket? Can you bring it back, please? Thank you. You see, yeah? Leading to AI-human cooperation via economic incentives. So this matrix creature was driven by economic incentives, in fact, of using humans as batteries. The case is that it doesn't happen instantaneously. And people will have a pressure from these new forms of intelligence that will appear to enhance their own intelligence further, because otherwise they will become just an objects of the economy, not as subjects in the economy. And it will motivate people to move faster, first of all. And by this motivation, in fact, we will get the integration of human intelligence and artificial intelligence. Because for both of the parties, for artificial intelligence, if we will assume there is some self-aware AI, which I do think is not the case and wouldn't happen quite soon, anyway. But even if we have a self-aware artificial intelligence, it is more beneficial for it to integrate into ready-to-go human brain, which with its intelligence capacity created by 9 billion years, sorry, not 9, 4 billion years of evolution, than trying to reinvent the wheel. And the same incentives is kept for humans, not to be overrun by a new intelligence, but to use it to extend its own. And this incentivization will in fact prevent AI from appearing as another part standing outside of the humanity. Because when humans will get some advanced forms of artificial intelligence, not self-aware, they will be incentivized to integrate it into themselves. And that's why we will get, as a result, a post-humanity not divided into humans and robots. But if we will put a regulation as a barrier regarding like people shouldn't integrate and enhance their cognitive facilities because it will create a discrimination, and somebody can do, somebody can't, so there is some government saying that you shouldn't do that, and there will be separate evolution and development in the field of artificial intelligence not being integrated into humans, that could be the case. So in this case, we can have economical, we will have a misalignment of incentivization over the evolution period and development period of artificial intelligence, while it will become a separate entity, neutral or more clever to humanity, and use it as its own economical resource. Yeah, this one.
Wait a minute, please.
Thank you. Could you tell me a little bit more about your team, and is one of the finalities of the projects, of the people that work in your project, to become obsolete, to actually create an advisory board, or just a group of people that were the founders but have no more power or agency over this protocol, technological protocol that you created, in case any government or external party would try to overthrow it?
That's why, as a company, we see our mission in that we develop the core scientific background, we publish the papers, we develop early stage prototypes and reference implementations of the technology of the protocol. It's all open source and public. And we, at the next step, are working, and we already started working on the incentivizing other independent parties of doing their own implementations and versions of the system, which should be compatible, like different implementations of Lightning Network, but still being created by independent actors. So the technology will depend on us as the founders only on the stage of its scientific formal verification and initial description.
Do you have any questions? I think we have time for one last, if there's any. Okay.
Thank you very much for this talk. It was wonderful. Do you know if there are other organizations that work on the same idea of combining AI with the libertarian ideas?
Unfortunately, when I started, I was expected that there will be others who I will find, but I didn't find one. And instead of that, I found that many people who probably should share the same ideas and vision, they're against it. And I don't know any other initiative. So that's why we decided to create this Free AI Manifesto ourselves, because we don't see anything like that.
Thanks.
Okay, Maxim, thank you very much for your next level speech. That was Dr. Maxim Orlovsky. And one more information from my side. Here in Slévárna, there will be charity auction of gold coin with Ross Ulbricht at 8 p.m. So if you are interested in the auction or just want to watch it, just come here to Slévárna 8 p.m. after the official program of the speeches, so you won't miss anything. Just you can watch it or join if you are interested.